So you guys, we're watching you plan this wedding. We're coming down to the wire. There's a lot going on. We see you and Mike have a lot of conversations about like, can we even have this wedding? Is this something we want to do? And we watched you on Watch What Happens Live on Sunday. Andy said the number one question viewers wanted to know was how you guys were able to have this wedding and what protocol put in place. So we, how did you pull off that wedding? How did you pull off having, that many guests in October in a pandemic? And hopefully, it was a success.
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I've been asked this question a lot of times.
Yes.
First and foremost, by the grace of God, that's for sure. Any wedding is very stressful to plan, without question. A pandemic wedding was a huge undertaking. Looking back, I don't know how I was able to pull it off. But I will say, we just wanted to make sure, 10-10-20 was our date. However, Mike and I did think about postponing it and delaying it like every other bride that was trying to get married last year. We went through all of those things as well. But, at the time, you guys, timeline wise, we were still early in the early planning stages. This was like May, June. So, people kept telling us, oh, by October, you guys will be fine. Like, we just kept thinking this thing was going to be gone by October. This started in like March. I was quarantined in Los Angeles with my family. So I was optimistic. I was excited. I've made no secret that I am very excited about my relationship with my now husband, Mike Hill. So all that excitement went all the way through to the day of the wedding. With that said, my question was, okay, we don't even know if we could have it 2021, the wedding that we want. So is there a way to do this wedding legally? We didn't break any laws. Just put that out there. The venue, the governor, everything was approved that we could actually have this wedding with this amount of people. Is there a way to have a COVID-19 wedding, since we don't know where it's going? We may be dealing with this for years now. And we came up with, the best solution, which was just like give our guests everything they need to be safe, transparency being number one, that it is going to be a larger wedding. Our guests obviously didn't have to come to this wedding. You know what I mean? We were actually kind of happy to get, declines, graceful declines.
Right.
So it was like, oh, great, somebody else is not coming. But, for me, this is like my happy ending. And I've been married, before. You guys saw me when I first came on the show, and I had a big wedding on the show, and that obviously didn't end up being my happy ending. But I was just optimistic and just excited to see if we could do this and make sure that everyone is safe. And hindsight being 2020, everyone was. There were no positive cases that I know of that came back that was related to our wedding. We had a COVID-19 specialist come and spray the venue. I mean, it cost a lot of money. It would have been cheaper to have delayed the wedding or had a wedding with 10 people. Trust and believe. Mask, shields, temperature checks. Like, you couldn't even come in without actually physically washing your hands in a basin. We had, sanitizers stations everywhere. We did everything that we could do on our part. And you got to remember, I'm about to be 54 soon. Mike just turned 50. This was not Miami spring break. Most of our guests are grown people who are responsible and who have no interest in trying to get sick. So we did the best that we could do. And again, by the grace of God, everyone's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's just because it is on television and we're all going to watch it happen. I'm sure you're going to catch some heat for it if you haven't already.
Yeah. I have been from the moment.
Yeah. I feel like you have no regrets though. It's like, that was your date. You're happy about it.
I have one regret. I have one regret. My only one regret. And this is what I've shared with some other brides who are getting married this year, because now I've kind of become the COVID-19 bride, and people have been reaching out to me wanting to know what all we did, to have a successful wedding without, any incidents. My one regret is, I don't even like to say regret, because I don't really live life with regrets. The one thing I would have done differently is we would have required mandatory COVID-19 testing. We encouraged it, but at the time, it wasn't just readily available to everyone.
Yeah.
Testing. Some states you can get it easily, some states you couldn't, or whatever. And we had a lot of out of town guests. But in that case, it just would have been one of those, well, if you can't get the test, we just wanted you to know that we would have loved you to have been there, but unfortunately you can't come. So all the other brides that are getting married this year, I told them to make sure that they require their guests to have mandatory tests. They have to bring their test results to the wedding, 5 days before the wedding or whatever the requirement is, to make sure that everyone's safe. That way, although you still, I still encourage mask and everything, at least you don't have to freak out every time someone takes off a mask to take a picture or take a, drink a champagne or eat. It just takes all the pressure away. That's the one thing I would have done differently. And just if you couldn't get the test, you just couldn't come. So
yeah. Well, that's good advice for those who, are trying to plan any wedding or anything that, coming up this year while we're still living through all of this.
I want to point out, you guys didn't ask me this too, going back to the wedding. One of the other things that happened at the last minute was Hurricane Delta. The week of the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
The day of my wedding. So we actually had
kind of forgot about that.
Oh yeah, well it was kind of a big deal because that almost took me out, because now we're like 3 days before the wedding and somehow it's all working out. And the hurricane happens, and of course, I'm checking the weather report, the Weather Channel. It was a hurricane the day of the wedding, the week of the wedding, which some people say, rain is good luck. So I guess a hurricane is amazing luck.
Yeah, extra good luck. Together forever if you got to go through a hurricane. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, at the last minute, I said all that to say at the last minute, we ended up 3 days before I had to make the call to just change everything up and move the wedding back inside, because we had moved everything outdoors as an attempt to do another thing to make people feel safe. And then that all went to hell, and pretty much was like, okay, so it's going to be not drizzling, but like pouring down rain, like it's wind. So we had to go back in about 3 days before. And that just was a mess, because then we had to like make everything work inside. But
yeah. And at that point, it's not like you're getting any of your money back. Like at that point, the place is keeping it. Like there's if you cancel that.
Everyone's on the ground at that point. Everyone's flown
3
in.
days
Our guests
before.
are even in town at this point, and Mike and I have a lot of out of town friends. I spent most of my life in New York, and he spent most of his life in California. So, and that's another reason we thought a lot of people wouldn't come, because we didn't have a lot of people in Atlanta that, were invited. I didn't think all these people, it's like usually when you invite out of town people to a wedding, everyone doesn't show up. But I think the pandemic kind of backfired on us, because I think if we weren't in a pandemic, maybe so many people wouldn't come, but because people were so cooped up in the house for months, like, give me my mask and my shield and my hand sanitizer, I'm coming. Like, they even wanted to come more because they just had been in the house for 6 months. So